Alright guys, looking at the car from the rear, we're going to be changing our fuel filter. It's a very easy and simple process, something that's overlooked a lot, and something that should be done on a regular basis as part of maintenance. Now, if you come toward the back, right just ahead of the catalytic converter, you're going to find your heat shield, and right behind your heat shield you're going to find your fuel filter. Now, the fuel filter for this type of vehicle is the canister style filter, such as the replacement one that you see here. Now, I always mark date, and I mark mine with the date and the mileage so that I'll know how long the fuel filter's been in there. And it's really a very simple procedure to change it. The fittings on the fuel filter are 20 millimeter, while the fittings on the line themselves is I think that was a 16 or a 17 millimeter. Now, disconnecting the lines is very easy. Counter hold the fuel filter here with your 20. Use the other wrench to just break loose the nut on each side to disconnect the lines from the fuel filter. The next step is just to loosen the retaining bolt on the clamp that holds the fuel filter in place, so that you can slide the canister out of the clamp. Next step is to follow the line on the right side of the fuel filter, and if you follow it up just about to where you get to the heat shield on that side of the car, you'll see a retaining clamp that holds the line to the car and keeps it from moving. You're going to have to remove this bolt so that you can take the line and slide it back out of the fuel filter. Once you remove the bolt, carefully pull back on the line and just get ready for a little bit of gas to come spurting out once you remove the line. At this point, you're just going to let the gas drain out of the line before you attempt to remove the filter. And as you move the filter off of the line on the other side, you're going to get a little bit of gas come out of there also. So just be aware of this as you're removing the filter, that you can have a little bit of gas come out. Once we have this line out, why don't we just pull the filter this way. Let it drain out. Pull the filter out. Straight out this way. Then I would recommend changing the O-rings on each line here. Okay guys, now this is the primary reason why we always want to take a look at our O-rings and change them when we do a job like this. See this one? This one has already been flattened from the time spent compressed against the fuel filter. Now, once you move the fuel filter to remove it, you're going to change the position of this O-ring, in which case then the flattened area will not sit where it was sitting before, which means it may not seal properly. And that's where you're going to get a leak. So it's always a good idea when you're doing something like this, always change your O-rings. See this one also, a little bit of flattening, but not as bad as the other one. Alright guys, now before I install a new fuel filter into the car. And after I replace my O-rings, as we spoke about, what I like to do is I grease the threads of the fittings, because one of the biggest issues with this fuel filter sitting here under the car, especially if it's driven in winter weathers, is that these things tend to corrode, and then you're fighting it when you're trying to get it off the fuel filter. So put a little bit of anti-seize, a little bit of grease in there. I use Molykote, which is a really good anti-seizing agent, and you'll never have an issue breaking these things free of the fuel filter. Okay, now one thing I wanted to point out before we put the new fuel filter in If you look at the bracket that holds the fuel filter, there is a notch in the bracket, in the back of the bracket. That is where this line is supposed, one of the fuel lines is supposed to sit, as it rides and is held in place by the bracket right behind the fuel filter. So you got to make sure that you're sitting right in this little notch here, otherwise the filter won't fit. Alright, now, so we install the new fuel filter, remove the plugs on each end of the filter. First, let me grease the threads. Going to take the new filter, make sure our line is in the right place, and squeeze it into the bracket so it meets the other line. Loosen that up a little bit more. Alright guys, now we have the filter back in, and it's all a matter now of just reassembly. Just be very careful as you're reattaching the lines. You don't want to over tighten anything, because you don't want to risk crushing those O-rings and possibly causing a leak. Even though they're new, they can still be crushed and deformed if you over tighten the fittings on the filter itself. Okay guys, the job is finished, and now we're gonna go and start the car up and check our work and make sure that everything's good, except for one thing. It's kind of hard to start the car without the keys. Yeah, remember, leave the keys in the car when you're working on it. That way you won't have to go across the shop back to your bay to get the keys like I just did.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Alright, let's get this thing started. guys, and that is all it took to replace a fuel filter. And remember, always recheck your work when you're done. Alright guys, that's going to be it for now. We're going to take her out for a little spin and enjoy the car for a little bit. I'll see you on the next one.